a list maker at heart. Do I follow my lists? Now, these are two separate hobbies, people. You should know where we're at. Lists on lists on lists is what I feel happens at the end of every year. We're making all of our goals, making all of our plans, making lists of all the books that we want to read the coming year, and still we don't read them, we buy more books, and we completely ignore every single list that we've made. And because of all of that, and despite of all of that, I am making a list of 22 books to read in 2021. And so I've basically gathered a list of 22 books that I want to read in 2022. Now you can take this list and from whatever you haven't read, follow it yourself or add or take away however you want. You can also make your own list. I highly encourage you to do so. And if you want to leave it in the comments down below, I'll make sure to check those out. I have a massive collection of books, as you'd be able to see. And honestly, one of my biggest goals of 2022 is to not buy as many books as I've accumulated this year, because I've accumulated quite a bit of books. And so because of that, I genuinely thought this video idea was genius, because it gave me an opportunity to look at the grand scheme of my shelf and see what 22 books am I the most excited to get to in the year of 2022. And before I get started with those 22 books, I do need to give a thank you to the sponsor of today's video, which is a Book of the Month. If you guys are not familiar with Book of the Month, it is a super popular and fast-growing online book service. For those of you who have been here, you know I've been working with them for the majority of the year, and I absolutely love what they do. They have the stunning mission every single month to promote new and emerging authors and help readers discover books that they love by cutting out the entirety of the research process that a reader has to do in order to find new releases, because their team goes through hundreds of books every single month, and they release a final selection of 5 books every month from a variety of different genres that are all either new or early release titles. What's cool about Book of the Month is that it's also risk-free. You can cancel any month at any time and you will not be charged for that month. And this month they have the best coupon of the year running, where if you use the code JOLLY, you will get your first book for $5. You guys, you probably won't ever get an adult hardcover fiction for this price. It's literally incredible. And I do have the December selection right here, so let's go over them. Let me show them to you and read you a little bit of a synopsis. We first have their contemporary fiction of the month, and that is Olga Dies Dreaming. 2 siblings vie for the American dream until Hurricane Maria drags their estranged mother back into their lives. This month they also have a magical realism book, A History of Wild Places, a mesmerizing tale about the search for a missing woman last seen going into an isolated forest town with some secrets. Their thriller this month is A Flicker in the Dark, and when a serial killer emerges with an eerily familiar pattern, Chloe Davis wonders if she's really escaped her past. They also have a memoir this month, Somebody's Daughter. A moving coming-of-age memoir about the complications of family provides ample testament to the resilience of love. And last but not least, and I love that they included this year, we have a holiday romance, The Holiday Swap. Twins who could both use a reset decide to revive their childhood habit and swap places. Book of the Month also renews their add-on catalog, and everything remains on their website. So if you want to get more books besides the one pick out of the main 5, you can do so. And this month they included The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green, and those are the December books for Book of the Month. Again, I will be leaving my link and code down below so that you guys can sign up if you want to. Again, this is the best code that you'll get out of the entire year, because your first book will be for $5 instead of the usual $9.99. So thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. I love you guys so much, and let's get right onto the 22 books that I want to read in 2022. So for the very first book on this list is a book that I actually wanted to read this year. I actually had a whole video in which I thought I'd be able to include this book, but then I saw how long this book was and I said, hold up, not happening, can't do it this year, abort mission. And so I'm leaving this book for next year, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt, what seems to be the poster child of dark academia. In this one, we follow a group of students who end up following this set of doctrines set by a professor at their New England college. And they go from a very humdrum experience of their contemporary lives into what seems like a whirlwind of events, full of betrayals and deaths and corruption, obsession, and ultimately a lot of evil. It sounds like the best compilation of twists and turns and a train wreck that I can't look away from. And honestly, I've read quite a bit of train wrecks I can't look away from, and I feel like this is gonna be one of those, and I'm just ready for all of the chaos that I'm sure will ensue with this one. Now, I didn't count these as separate books, I counted this all as a single unit, and that is Taylor Jenkins Reid as an author. I really want to read all three of her main works, Daisy Jones and the Six, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and also Malibu Rising, which is her most recent entry. These are all very different books, although I do know that Daisy Jones and the Six and then The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo kind of fit a little bit more perfectly into the historical fiction genre, while Malibu Rising is just straight fiction. And I do know that these two books are also connected. I believe we follow one of the husbands in Malibu Rising with his new life, and so I just want to make sure that I read all three books because I cannot escape Taylor Jenkins Reid over on booktube. Everybody's talking about her works, how they've all made people emotional, how the audiobooks are fantastic, and how they just keep continuously getting better. And so I need to see what it's all about. I need to experience these by myself, and I already own all three. I own these two physically, and then I own Daisy Jones in audiobook format because I was told that is the best way to do it. So here we are. It's happening in 2022, hopefully, and we're here. We're thriving. You'll realize very quickly that I have left all of my lengthy books for 2022. It's going to be a journey to get through these, but I honestly want to make it my mission, and you guys will see more of it because I am planning to upload a 2022 reading goals, but I do plan to make just 2022 a lot more chill in terms of reading than I did this year. I feel like this year I just kind of rushed through books and made sure that I was reading so much because I thought reading more meant more content, meant more recommendation videos, and I could not have been more wrong from the actual truth of things. So I definitely want to be more intentional with my reading next year, and so that is why I kind of left the longer books for next year, because I knew it was going to be impossible to fit them all in a way that I could actually read and enjoy them all this year. So with that being said, Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. It's here. It's on the list. One of the books that I definitely want to get to next year. I said that I wanted to get to it this year, and then I didn't do it, and now I'm just staring at this and I'm like, I want to read you, which is not enough time this year. But this is a historical fiction / magical realism fantasy, and we have Claire, who's our main character, a former combat nurse who's come back from her final service and is reunited with her husband into their second honeymoon, and it is there that she finds this very mythical magical stone in Scotland that she touches, and she finds herself transported back in time, where she'll find herself in a tug of war between past, present, and future, two very distinct loves and relationships, and where she belongs best. I remember watching the show a few years back, honestly, a while ago it feels like, and I never finished it, and then I really wanted to get into the books, but it's always been intimidating because it's so many books and they're all so long. Honestly, if I'm planning to get into the Wheel of Time, I can also get into Outlander. Heck, I can handle it all. Okay, confirmation. Thank you, motorcycle. I promise you it's happening. Maybe. Looky who's here. I just had to put it in here because I knew not only A, am I really gonna get to this because it's one of my Patreon book club picks for January, and so I thought it'd be worth putting on this list so that I could say that I at least read one of these books next year, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Now I know at first I was like, oh, will I ever read this? I don't know. I love Greek retellings. I think what was putting me off is the fact that everybody was talking about this, and I was like, I hear y'all, I get it, it's so good and it made you cry, but like, do I want to be in this trend? Like, do I want to succumb to it? And then my brain said, yes you do. I am super curious to see how this will go down for me. I know the vast majority of people absolutely adore this book, while there's a very small minority, hence why it's a minority, Mel, come on girl, that generally didn't like this book and that ended up DNFing it. And so I'm very curious because sometimes I'm on the opposite side of things, and I would really like to know where I'm gonna fall on with this one, but I'm really excited to read this. All I know is that this is an Iliad retelling. Have I ever read the Iliad? Absolutely not. But has that ever stopped me? And the answer is no, it has not. I'm very excited to read this next year, and I have no synopsis for you because I want to keep this book a surprise. Well, hello, Jade City. It has to be on this list. If you guys have not watched the announcement video, I'll make sure to leave it linked down below, but I have planned an entire read-along starting January for the Greenbone Saga, and I am beyond this world with excitement to finally be reading these because it's been a long time coming, okay? I've been putting these off for a while now. In this one, we've got the honorable Greenbone warriors who for hundreds of years have been enhancing their bodies and strength using jade in order to ward off any danger from the island of Kekon. However, the war is finally over, and now a new generation of this family is planning to take over, and it'll boil down to 4 siblings of the Cowell family to prepare for battle because the peace amongst clans is is about to break. And this is supposed to have all of those mobster gangster vibes set in Hong Kong. I am just so ready to read this. It's said to be full of magic with consequences and the most amazing characters with family at the forefront of the story. And it just sounds so amazing, and I've seen everybody love this. So in 2022, a girl will be a part of the hype, okay? Next up, I've got the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. Could also apply to the entirety of the Broken Earth trilogy. Much like the Greenbone saga, it is one that I am very excited to get to next year. I have heard nothing but amazing things about this one, and some of my patrons have been pushing me for ages to read these books, and quite honestly, I don't know why I'm so intimidated by the Broken Earth trilogy. I just am, and I will read the back of the book just because every time I read this, it just gives me chills. You know when sometimes you read the synopsis of something, but then you don't necessarily click, then you read the back of the book and you're like, oh shit, hold me. That's me with this book. I'm gonna channel my inner Rosamund Pike. This is the way the world ends for the last time. It starts with a great red rift across the heart of the world's sole continent, spewing ash that blots out the sun. It starts with death, with a murdered son and a missing daughter. It starts with betrayal and long dormant wounds rising up to fester. This is the stillness, a land familiar with catastrophe, where the power of the earth is wielded as a weapon, and where there is no mercy. Am I ready to narrate an audiobook or what? I was channeling my inner audiobook reader. This sounds so good, and it sounds like the magic system itself will be solidified and very grounded on elemental power. That is something that I used to be very fascinated by when I was younger, so I really do feel like I love this. I'm very excited. So, hear me out. This is me giving you ammunition. I don't know why I'm doing this, but last year, if you've been here for a while or if you've binge watched the videos, which thank you if you have, I put this book on the list of books that I wanted to start this year, and then I didn't do it. I don't know what happened there. Let's not lie to the people, Mel. You just didn't read it because you didn't get around to it. And that is Red Rising. When's the last time I'm gonna put this book on a list? I should probably just go hide somewhere after showing this book for like the millionth time on my channel. I've said the synopsis more times than I care to count for a book I have yet to read and that I've said I'm going to read in at least 5 videos. Need I say more? We have a futuristic society, so this is a sci-fi dystopian where society is separated by different castes. And Zero is a red, which is the lowest tier of castes there is. And once Zero discovers the truth of the way that this society works, he will try and infiltrate the ranks of the gold caste, which is the top tier in society, and he will quite literally have to fight for his life and for the fate of the world. I've told myself to read it like 5 times now in 5 different videos and in everyday life. Let me just keep this short and sweet before I embarrass myself further. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. End scene. Thank you. Malice by John Gwynne is another one that I really want to tackle. I have heard incredible things about John Gwynne in general, about his writing, about his storytelling, and I feel like this is one of those staples I kind of need to read to introduce myself to the genre a little bit deeper. Now, the back of this is quite long. We seem to have 4 different main characters who all come from different backgrounds, have led very different lives, but it's the very end of this that has always caught my eye. The Banished Lands has a violent past where armies of men and giants clashed in battle. But now, giants stir anew. Stones weep blood, and there are sightings of giant worms. Those who can still read the signs see a threat far greater than the ancient wars. For if the Black Sun gains ascendancy, mankind's hopes and dreams will fall to dust, and it can never be made whole again. It's so interesting to me because I have yet to read Black Sun, which I also need to get to in 2022, if I'm being honest, though it's not on this list. Again, I don't want to embarrass myself too much because it's already been on TBR list. It strikes me as so interesting that Black Sun is also mentioned here, and I want to see how this plays out in both of these books, honestly. I'm curious. More high fantasy for this list. We've got The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. Another one that I really need to get to. I bought this one a while back and I have yet to read this one. Also, the cover. I know some people don't like the minimalist sort of covers. I love them. I love the foiling. I'm living for this. It's fantastic. This one is said to be like an adult Six of Crows. Now, I hope it won't be like Six of Crows, if I'm being honest. You guys know my history with Six of Crows. I've never been able to finish that book. However, I am hoping for like a Robin Hood sort of story based on the synopsis, because we have our main character, the Thorn of Camor, who literally steals off the rich to give to the poor. And the way that the tagline for this book goes is, they say he's part man, part myth. And it's mostly street corner rumor. They are wrong on every count. Now, I am excited to see the fantasy element environment of this, because I don't know exactly how or why the fantasy kicks into this story, but I've heard really great things about this one. I know this is a fan favorite amongst the high fantasy community. Our girl will get immersed in this and see what it's all about next year. Next up, I have Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, a series indie book that a lot of people have recommended I read, especially given my newfound interest for high fantasy. And in this one, we follow Fitz, who is by all intents and purposes a royal bastard. Now, the way that this world works is that every house born to royalty is cataloged for a different virtue, and Fitz defies basically every rule there is in this world, except that now he is brought into royalty and he has to leave behind this magic in order to become the royal's apprentice. I know as far as high fantasy goes, people literally adore Robin Hobb with the entirety of their being. So I'm just excited to see what this one's all about. This is the collector's edition, so there's a bunch of cool illustrations in between chapters and stuff, and the bind up is just really beautiful. So I'll probably be reading off this copy with a lot of care. A girl is on a streak here, okay? We're seeing a pattern, we're seeing a theme. The Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie. Lord Grimdark himself, as he calls himself, as his fan base calls him. I am really excited to read this. I also know Mina from Mina Reads absolutely adores this series, the first Lost series, and the synopsis at the back, it's nothing. Listen to this. A bitter torturer, a dashing useless army officer, a berserker who no longer has a cause, and the bald old fraud of a magus who brings them all together. All there is to know. I oftentimes find that when it comes to high fantasy, it's a lot better to go into it without any set of expectations, though I know that's a little bit hard because sometimes you have such a long book and you kind of want to know what it's about. But I found myself being kind of disappointed by certain stories by knowing the synopsis, because then I build expectations, and so I'm trying to go into these as blind as humanly possible, because if not, I don't want to hate books, okay? I don't want to rate books low. It makes me feel bad. Maybe one that you guys didn't foresee me putting on this list, but The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood is absolutely being read in 2022. We have an established dystopian world where the decline of birth rates and environmental issues cause a second American Civil War. Therefore, a totalitarian regime rises up in power and creates extra rigid roles, which ultimately end up enslaving the last few fertile women. I also know there's a fantastic show to go along with this. I have heard nothing but praise for that too. I am here to read this in 2022. Not a book, but a manga bind up, and that is Uzumaki by Junji Ito. I in general want to get into Junji Ito's works. I have heard that these are terrifying. My brother started reading this and he said that he had never been as spooked as this whenever he's read anything, and so I'm excited to see what this is about, because apparently people develop like a fear of spirals due to this one, and my brother and I were literally talking about this and we were like, there's no way, and then he started reading this and he said, oh yes way. Since it's manga, like I know, oh shit, that was scary. What page was that? Oh, I hate it. Great, fantastic. We're off to a great start with this one. Not a book that you'd think you'd see in one of my lists. Oh, sir, no. I find myself compelled to include this book in this list just because I really want to read it, because I'm curious. I'm very curious. Y'all are gonna hate me for this. For the people, for my patrons, when they watch this, they're gonna be like, why are you doing this to yourself? And the answer is, I don't know. Beautiful World, where are you? I said I was gonna read this in November. It didn't happen. It also won't happen in December. Maybe January will be the month for this, but will I love this? Will I hate this? Who knows? I just know we follow a bunch of friends in their different threads of life. What a great synopsis, Mel, but that's really all I know, and I am keeping it to a bare minimum because honestly, I'm just hoping Sally Rooney will surprise me. I'm not hoping for anything else. I just want her to prove to me that a book can be better than 2 stars. If it's a good book, it's a good book. Another book that I said I would read this year and then I didn't get around to it, but honestly, I will in 2022, and that is House of Leaves. This is a scary, intimidating book. It is said to be bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. There's like a million different ways to read this. There's like an outer body experience as you read this. It just sounds like a mess. It sounds like chaos. It sounds traumatizing, honestly. Oh my god, I need to prepare myself for this book. Like, I need to know what I need. I know you need like a magnifying glass and like a mirror and shit. I'm not trying to be possessed by anything in this life or in the next, but I'll give this a try. And I know we follow Johnny. I think he's a tattoo artist from what I somewhat remember. Ooh, there is something here. And then he find a book that he has to read or something amongst those lines. I forgot the synopsis. I'll just leave it at that. The Eye of the World. So I wanted to read this book this year, not only because the show was coming out, but also because I've seen so many people rave about this, and you know, it's such an amazing ride and it's so worth it for a 14 book series, and I just need to get into this. I also am now extra excited because Rosamund Pike narrates a new audiobook for The Eye of the World, and there's just something about her voice. It's just so magical, and I was like, I kind of need this experience in my life. And so the very top of the book is just, it's also in the show. I'm also watching the show, by the way. This says, the wheel of time turns and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth returns again. And I know the book and the show so far are very different. I kind of watched people dissect the show, you know, episode by episode, and apparently the changes made to the show are different. The pacing is different. The way that they've decided to present the story is somewhat different. And so I'm excited, you know, to compare and contrast, to see what's up with the book versus the show. It is said that he spends a lot of pages just setting the scene, the atmosphere, describing dresses. That one I've heard a lot. And honestly, I do not mind a long story or long introductions to anything. Typically high fantasy books that are this long, they have a nook and space for everything. And so I'm just excited to take this ride, however it's presented to me, however the dragon is presented to me, Moraine, Lan, and Rand, and Egwene, and Perrin, and Matt, and Nynaeve, and everybody, all of the characters. I am just really excited about this journey. I don't know exactly the synopsis for the book versus the show, and I'm not confident in telling you what the show is about and kind of saying that it's the exact same as the book, so I'll refrain myself from doing so. So for now, I am leaving it like that. Next up is a book that I'd honestly never heard of in my life up until one of my patrons sent a picture on the Citadel server, and I was just not only in love with the cover, but then I read the synopsis and I was like, I need this. Crossings by Alex Landragin. I had never heard of this book again, you guys, but the synopsis sounds so good and it kind of gives me Shadow of the Wind vibes, so I kind of had to get it. And in this one, we follow a Parisian bookbinder who is handed a manuscript by one of his clients in order to tidy it up, dress it up, make it look really pretty. Except that in his journey of binding up this manuscript, the owner of it dies, and he ends up doing the exact opposite of what he was commanded to do, and he ends up reading it. And in there, he'll find 3 different tales that are all connected in some sort of way. And I guess it will somewhat leak into his own personal life. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know even if it will happen, but that's what the synopsis is leading me to think. This is one that I'm definitely excited about, again, especially because I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. So the fact that I'm going into this with only that little bit of synopsis, but mostly blind, makes me really, really hopeful and excited that I'll really enjoy this one. The next is this stunning copy of The Master and the Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov, and this is translated fiction. It was initially published in Russian, and this book initially was written in the 30s, I believe, and it depicted Soviet life at the time so perfectly that it couldn't be published traditionally, and thus a censored version was delivered out into the public in the 1960s. But now we've got like an all new translation, and it's like supposedly complete and not censored, and it's supposed to be so good. And we follow the devil as he arrives in Moscow, and he is accompanied by 2 individuals, one a cat and the other one a beautiful naked witch. These 3 presences bring a lot of peace to 2 very unlikely individuals. First, the master, who is a writer, and the second is Margarita, who is in love with the master and will do just about anything to be with him, even if it includes going to hell. It's supposedly satirical but philosophical and just so full of just good stuff in here, so I cannot wait to give this a read. I knew nothing about this and I bought it. That's how much it got me, so I'm very excited to read this. And for the last 3 books, I first have El Silencio de la Ciudad Blanca. It is a book in Spanish, but I'm just so excited to read this next year, especially after Shadow of the Wind. Again, I feel like it has ignited my love for reading in Spanish, which is so nice because I haven't read in Spanish since high school. And this is also a mystery, which is something that for some reason Spaniards just do very well. In this one, we follow Tasio Ortiz de Zarate, who is an archaeologist that got condemned for supposedly committing a series of murders in Vitoria a few years in the past. Now, 20 years have passed and freedom is just within reach, except that a couple in their 20s is found dead present time with the same signs as those serial murders 20 years ago. And on the other end, we have our detective, Unai Lopez de Ayala, who not only has a relationship with somebody in the police force, but who also is very obsessed with solving this one crime. That's the gist of it, of what I could translate that is in Spanish at the back. It just sounds around, so fun, so tension filled, and like a great thriller. I can't wait to see all of the twists and turns and see what it has to offer. Again, fan arts are so good at doing thrillers, executing them in a way that are always so twisty and good, so I can't wait to see what it has to offer in this format. Another book that I thought I'd get to in 2021, though I didn't, is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, especially now reading The Starless Sea. I really want to get to this as soon as possible. And in this one, the synopsis, the very beginning, is literally the circus arrives without warning. And we follow particularly our two main characters, Celia and Marco, who have for their entire lives been trained towards being mercurial instructors, except that unknown to them, only one can be left standing. It sounds so good, it's lyrical, and if it's anywhere near as good as The Starless Sea is so far, I just know I'm gonna enjoy this. Maybe more than The Starless Sea, maybe the same. We'll find out in 2022. And last but not least, I have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, which is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. That is literally all I know about this book, and that is kind of all that I want to know going into this. I have heard incredible things. I've also gotten this book recommended to me a lot by a lot of you guys. Obviously, the winter vibes seem to be at an all-time high with this one. I literally just uploaded a winter book recommendations today, and one of you guys said obviously Spinning Silver is the perfect book for winter, and so here I am in my non-existent winter saying I'll probably read this during winter because it seems like the perfect book to do so. And she also has another one called Uprooted. Now, I don't know if I'll ever read Uprooted because that one hasn't been as recommended as this one. However, this one though has received so much praise, not only by you guys, but the general public, everybody around the world. And so I kind of just need to read this and see what it's all about. And therefore, I am going in as blind as humanly possible. If you took a shot every time I said excited, you'd probably be smashed by now. So yes, you guys, that is it for today. Those are the 22 books that I want to read in 2022. I hope that you guys loved this. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button down below. Let me know down below, what are some books that you would like to get to in 2022? Are there any that overlap with your list? Have you read any of these books? What have you thought about them? As always, let's chat down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't done so already. I am constantly uploading videos that I'm sure you do not want to miss. And if you reach the end of the video, let's leave some calendar emojis down below. I feel like that one's perfect. If you want to support the channel further, I also have a Patreon. We call ourselves The Citadel, and that is always linked down below alongside all of my social medias. Again, thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget that you can again check them out at the link at the top of my description, and you can use the code JOLLY to get your first book for $5, which is probably the best deal that you'll get out of the entire year. And the book picks are also incredible for December, so I hope you find something you like, and that $5 tag will finally convince you to sign up to Book of the Month. So thank you so much to them for sponsoring today's video, and yes, I love you guys so much, and I shall see you on the next one. Bye guys.